everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I have Bella of Unlock Your Design, me, Ashley, and we have RaYvn Star. She is the creator of the Seekers Library. We are going to be interviewing her for the 53rd Archetype. She is the Archetype Guardian of this because she just so happens to have this in her profile, Gene Key and Human Design. So RaYvn, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you started with these systems, what you're doing in your life, and also tell us a little bit about your design. Like, what is your blank, and where's the initiator in your design?
Okay, yeah. So I consider myself a truth seeker. So it's very fitting that we're talking about this 53rd gene key because it is the seeker, right? It's part of that whole codon. And I started Seekers Library many years ago, actually, just seeking and searching to understand myself. That's how I started. And I just wanted to know myself. And I actually took a Gene Keys workshop at the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors like years ago. And I met so many beautiful people and learned about this key, this expansion and superabundance in that workshop because we were covering my Radiance. And yeah, I have to say at first I was really intimidated when I read that gene key. And so I just became just a seeker. I just began seeking and learning about all the different systems. And that's when Seekers Library came together because I feel like these systems are guideposts when you need them, permission when you're looking for that, or confirmation when you need it to tell you that you're on your path, that these are like the keys that we left behind so that we could come here and actually fulfill our divine mission. Because there's like a false matrix mission that I know that I was a part of. And then I got out of corporate and all of that and started seeking and learning about myself. So Seekers Library was born of that. I interviewed Bella on my show. I'm looking forward to interviewing Ashley, and I cover all different systems. So Gene Keys and Human Design, as well as astrology, the Mayan dream spell, destiny cards, numerology, and personality tests. I'm just like obsessed with knowing yourself through all these different lenses. But yeah, and I'm a manifestor. Awesome. So that really, when I found out I was a manifestor, and because I've always been this initiator, but it felt like foreign, like especially as women, we're not like encouraged to like take this kind of bold approach and initiate things essentially. But I always was that. But I also, it's in the collective, like, oh, there's something wrong with me. So there was still that like subconscious part of myself that questioned myself for being me essentially. And when I turned to these systems and got that confirmation, like, you're a manifestor, like you're supposed to initiate, and it's okay. It's okay to be bold. Yeah, it was the permission I needed to leave my corporate false matrix life and start this whole new chapter and journey for myself. So grateful for all of these systems and for you both for just elevating and educating everyone. So thank you.
Yes. It's so perfect that you're the guardian for the initiator archetype, which is that's what manifestors are about, is initiating and informing, right? So it's so cool to be able to have you on here and have that part of a key part of your profile too. I mean, the radiance sphere, the unconscious earth, is so important. And it's also really cool because it's not really touched by your conscious mind. It's unconscious. And so it can't be manipulated. And even the 53 itself, it's a format energy. So it's gonna initiate you and begin things, like whether you like it or not, it runs your whole profile because it just overtakes the whole thing. Because that's just what the 53 does. That's what format energies do. So the initiator, it's going to be, oh, there's a dragonfly and it's like hovering right in front of my window. Perfect. Perfect. I want to know, I want to ask you a question. What is your relationship with initiating and with like beginnings, and how has that impacted like your ventures, and what happened when you initiated? What's the correct way to initiate? What's the incorrect way to initiate? And what is your personal experience with correct and incorrect initiating?
Well, I have a lot of ideas. I think I've had like 20 business ideas since leaving my corporate life. And so it's taught me, in one way, I've learned that like I don't have the energy to do all the things that I want to do, all the ideas. And so I've really been able to, with this knowledge, pass off some ideas that I've had, or just let it go and put it back into the collective, into the Akashics, and someone else will pick it up, with Seeker's Library. That has been what I've stayed with and has been like my baby that I will continue to nurture. And it's something that's always expanding, and there's always new things to do with it. So that's why that is a perfect fit for me. But there were some other things that I've done, and I've realized like, oh, if I try to do all this, then I don't have the energy to put into Seeker's Library, and that's a problem. So I've kind of learned that. And I've also learned specifically with informing, actually, because I do have this like 2-4 energy, which is also, I've heard like kind of a police energy, and to inform people about what I'm doing. And I also need to be informed. But I've learned to stop short of informing others about what they should do. So that's the wrong way to, inform / initiate, is I'm just minding my business here, just doing my thing. And that's the best way that I can inform and initiate.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. That makes total sense. Bella, did you have anything you wanted to add, or a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, just that basic distinction. The informing is about what you do, because people can be shocked by the manifestor. So really, and also because for you, you're gonna do what's natural for you to do as a 2-4, and that's also why maybe even more you're a dancer. So inform kind of people what kind of dance you're dancing, and yeah, the crossover penetration and the manifestor. Yes, I remember first time I saw your chart, and I saw your partner's chart too, and I understand that to be by your side, having so much energy in that sense, the initiator energy, the penetrating energy, who can kind of mirror that on an everyday basis? Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot. And speaking of dancing, I'm in Sedona right now, and I just danced at Cathedral Rock for hours last night, and it was such medicine. Dance is such medicine. So yeah.
That's so perfect with your 2-4 energy too. And I love that you said you're just here to inform like what you're doing and sharing what you're doing, because that's, I mean, your personal destiny too. That's your and is the cross of penetration left or right angle?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So personal. Yeah. So, and it's perfect because here's the systems I'm using, and you're almost like, I'm dancing between these systems, and let me just share that with you. And it doesn't have any agenda either. It's just, okay, here we go. Let me share this. And if you're seeking too, like I'm seeking, this is my library of the things I found. And so that's perfect. So perfect.
And the one thing I will say about Seeker's Library and how this key shows up for me, both as a gift and a challenge, is, I cover all the systems, and I also don't go super duper deep into any one system. Like, that's why I interview people that have dedicated their lives to one system. So I can see, I used to say that I'm like a spiritual dilettante, where I've done bhakti, I've done all the different spiritual ways. Currently studying more of a water path right now with like qigong, and actually like more of the stuff that Bella works with tantra. And it makes me more of a, I want to say dilettante. I know in the shadow it says fickle. So I want to see the higher side of that. And I have that oscillation, and it's something for me to be aware of. And that's really what all of these systems and all of this knowledge can do for ourselves, is to just be aware, like, oh, okay, like, so I can have this tendency, and let me just know that and be careful, but still be me, and not like, be upset if I want to be into all these different things,
Do you have the 40-second archetype? We call it the nomad, but it's like in the channel, it makes the complete channel. Do you have that one?
I do not. And I saw Bella's video on this about how there is a challenge because the cycle isn't like, fully complete when you don't have that channel. I do just have that new beginnings gate. And that's why I'm really calling in. Like, I know that I'm best as part of a large network.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm aware that it's really important that, yes, I want to, have my own business and own thing to a certain extent, but ultimately I really want to collaborate and be in community and be part of these larger networks and just do my part in it. And again, knowing that is so helpful. So yeah. Don't have that though.
Being super open to part. I mean, you're a 2-4, so there's like mirroring that needs to happen. If you initiate something, somebody's going to come through to like bring it to conclusion too.
Right.
And then knowing too, like if you do start something and it's not resonating, you're like, okay, yeah, no, you don't have to finish it. It's not mandatory to finish something. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm not going to water that seed because I just wanted to taste it. I just wanted to dance with it. I just wanted to try it. And now that I have, it's not going to be a long-term thing for me.
Yeah. And I actually just recently had this experience because I'm also a trained Ayurvedic chef. And I had this synchronistic experience as a postpartum Ayurvedic chef and did this whole program and put out this offer in that way. And this year I just realized like I needed to create this, like I needed to birth this, but this is not what my path is. And looking at my designs and charts and seeing that there's not a lot of like birth energy in that way. In the Mayan dream spell especially, I actually have more of like a death doula in my path. So it was very interesting to just like be okay with letting it go, and being proud of what I've created so far and what I've done, but that it's actually not what I need to keep doing.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me share your chart just so people can kind of see.
Sure.
Is it on let's see, it's on the screen. So I'm on her profile page. So if you go to the 53rd archetype, you'll be able to go and click on learn more about RaYvn. You are also going to be able to see her in the contributors page as well, but this is just a little bit about her. And then here are her charts and then how you can follow her. So if you are wanting to do that. But what I'm seeing here is like you were talking about having the death doula energy in you as well with Mayan Dream Spell, but I see a lot of creation in your chart. I mean, this whole left side is like creation. It's like, here's the beginning and here's some creation. And it's interesting though, because I mean, I guess what you would be struggling with is your natural creative mode and how it may not be like accepted or it may be denied by other people because you have entropy, freshness, beauty, but it's 1.2. So this archetype is a creator archetype, but if it's your core wound, it's something that you're needing to, harness and come into and rectify and embody and and I don't know, what has been your experience with your creative process and how have you felt like, oh, I'm not a creator, or somebody's told me I'm not a creator, or what's shown up there?
Yeah. Well, right now, like I had mentioned with the water path and kind of some of the work that Bella's doing with more Tantra, that is the direction I'm going in to work more with my creative energy and unlock even more of that. And, my challenge is that my creativity shows up in a more like visionary way where sometimes I don't have this like painting to show you, or completed music piece but I have bits of it. Like I can sing, I can dance, I can paint, I can do all these things, but they don't all come together in this like what people typically define as art or creativity. But I would consider Seeker's Library to be what I pour my creative energy into right now. Yeah. And all the other things as well. Like I said, dancing is my medicine. And so to dance last night on the rocks in Sedona was just so magical. So yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Giving yourself exactly what you need. Monica had said that, I'll put it on the screen, but she said, I call what you're saying butterfly offerings, creations that you don't carry forward. So the things that you're like, okay, great, but I'm not going to continue that. Have you read the book Big Magic?
I have not read that book. No.
No,
Is
she
that
talks.
where that comes from? Butterfly
I don't think so, but I
Okay.
really like what Monica said about butterfly
Mhm.
offerings. It's like here, and then they just, I mean, they fly away.
Yeah.
But in Big Magic, it's, I mean, you have a completely open head in Ajna, right? So let me.
And I have an open solar plexus as well.
Yes, completely open solar plexus, completely open head and ajna. And so all the ideas you have are not yours anyways. And so you may have a lot of ideas, but that's just because you're in tune with the creative field. It's like, here's all the ideas, here's all the creations that can be made manifest, and you get to just pluck and pick, I want this one or I don't want this one. And then if you end up taking it and not doing a lot with it, you can just take it back and somebody else will finish it. It's like you may start it and then somebody else might pull it from the garden and be like, okay, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to plant it in my garden, or I'm going to water it. It's not even like pulling it out of the garden. It's like a community garden. You're like, I'm going to plant this seed and it's going to start growing, but I don't feel like I want to finish it. So somebody else is going to come on and finish it until it's produced fruit or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And what I have found is that what I'm going to just call like false matrix versus organic matrix natural time, when I was, born into what we were all born into, the false matrix doesn't fully support like being a manifestor and that kind of way of being in the world. And there has been like a lot of shame of like, oh, you need to complete these things, or you need to be a go-getter and that sort of stuff. Whereas in this more organic matrix and timeline, we can all just know our design and know ourselves and understand each other's different flow and genius and contribution, and not make it and need to be any more than it is,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you created the Seeker's Library, and you're able to flow and dance within the container that you created there. And if you don't finish the things that you're in there, you bring in somebody that has the depth, that has the knowledge and that can take people deeper too. So you don't have to learn every single system or know all this stuff. I mean, you're here to be versatile. You have the skills, right? But the depth is not there unless you choose to go deep. It's not like a driving force inside you that says, I have to know all of it and the depths of it. That's not really a thing unless you're identifying with it, and that's the 2-4 energy too. I mean, you have to want to dance with it, and manifestors dance to the beat of their own drum and sing their own song. And so the right people will come and say, oh, I like that song, or I like that dance, and I want to dance too. But yeah, so, and you're here to be completely unique. Oh, hi Bella, you have something to say?
Oh,
I heard Bella for a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the noise in the background, but I just love when 2-4s can say that, because there's so many 2-4s that it kind of looks in the marketing and in the way they show themselves to the world like they are going super deep, and they went super deep and they're super experts. But then I'm like, okay, you started with human design 6 months ago and you're portraying yourself like you are super deep. So I just love when the 2-4 says, I'm all about what's natural to me. This is natural to me, but I'm not pretending that I'm, super, super, super deep. I really appreciate that. That makes me trust the 2-4 so much more, and actually just, go into the brilliance with the 2-4. So I just love it. It's like it feels so nice. It feels so relaxing to hear that kind of truth from a 2-4 profile.
Thank you, Bella. I just got chills. And I believe that there's medicine in the highlights. Like that's really where my genius is just looking at the highlights of these systems and seeing like, oh, there's synergies there. Because I do feel like a lot of this is different languages or different, I like to say, beautiful notes in the song that is you. We each have a different song to sing here. And there's so many nuances. Like even when I'm looking at the Enneagram and all these different systems, it's not just those 9 types. And that's why I have conversations with wisdom keepers and experts on my show. I learn every episode, and I have built my network now more and more. I have so many amazing friends and colleagues now just from saying yes to the thing that is the most exciting thing to me, which is Seeker's Library. And I learn, and I'm not trying to be an expert. Like I have said that many times, like I like to seek the synergies and the highlights, and let me learn from others who are going deeper. So yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, and there's so much, I mean, with being like a wisdom keeper of a system, it's almost like think that you need to know everything and be certain of everything. But when you have an open head in Ajna, you're not here to know anything or be certain of anything. So, I mean, me and Belle, we both have open head in Ajnas. We're not here to be like, I'm going to get super mechanical and tell you why I'm certain that we're just going to plug into the system and pull through what needs to get pulled through. That's it. If you have a defined head in Ajna, you are here to like think about it, conceptualize it, understand it, and be able to speak it from your own perspective. There's no filter in any of us like that is on the call right now. It's just, let's just go. Let's just let it come through in however it's meant to, especially for you, like with your head and Najna being so undefined, and then throat, you're going to speak it in a certain way and present it in a certain way that it's coming through the tone of your voice or the words you're choosing, but it's pretty pure in the sense that it comes through the way it needs to come through. And I see that you have, I don't remember what the whole channel is called, but the 44 and the 26, which is here to like be able to sell anything, right? Yep. So you're like, oh, I'm going to talk about this and bringing in the right people. I mean, your inner masculine is all about the networking, bringing in the people. You have the 44 in your unconscious Saturn, and that's part of that channel. So knowing and smelling out the talents in other people and being like, oh, you're great at this. Come and talk about this. Like your masculine doesn't want to do it on its own. It's like, let's bring in the right people. And then you create that foundation where your inner feminine is able to speak, right? Because you have the 62 in your SQ, which is also the inner feminine, the inner child, and your physicality and how you came into this world. So being able to have the right people, you're able to speak about these details, speak about these things, and choose the right words. And it's all about speaking, but you have to have the right people to talk to. You're not going to just go and let me just talk and tell you. That would be so like arrogant, like, oh, I know everything and let me just be the one that's talking. And your energy as a manifestor is so different because it's not super in your face. Like, listen to me, I'm informing you that you have to know these systems. And this is like, we need all these people, like get out of the false matrix and into this. And there's none of that, it's just like, here, I'm presenting this and like, you can take it or leave it. And here's what I want to say about it. So
my experience and my desire for everyone to know themselves and free will, And I love this also. We're talking about like, none of this is our ideas. We all have open heads. There's like also this kind of false matrix concept about like copywriting and like, this is my idea kind of thing. But like, none of it is anyone's, not even like RaYvn, like, he doesn't own the human design.
No,
content,
he doesn't.
He was truly just the channel that it initially came through. But what I'm seeing and what I love to witness is this new generation and era of people that are interpreting it differently and putting their own spin and renaming things, and it actually making even more sense and being more approachable. And that's what we get to do with this life and with all of this, is just play and be open and not like constricting, like the entropy that the pendulum could swing in that direction. But I've definitely done a lot of work to move past a lot of these shadows where it's like, no, none of this is mine. None of this is anyone's. It's like, let's all just play and share and continue to innovate.
So. I love that. I love what you say. Bella, do you have any questions or want to add anything?
I mean, I think that we sometimes get punished for that. I feel that quite a lot, but sometimes when I'm just happy that something is shared, it happened to me once where I was, it's like, I feel like I have all these fourth lines like you have too in your soul. And for me, I don't care if somebody shares my post and maybe forgets to even give me credit. Of course, it's nice. But that's the thing. I've seen many times, and I wonder if that's by people that have, defined head in Ashna, that I've actually been like, Bella, like, why are you speaking about this? Like, Jinkies as if it was yours. And I never think about that. That's how I speak about it. I'm just sharing the system, the way the transmission comes through me. So I can see that they're like kind of two fields where you can be quite punished in this world when you are just pretending innocently that you have love for something. And I wonder maybe if you have seen it, like, do you think there's also like a bad side of it, like how you have been met when you are sharing, or do you feel with your manifestor energy that sometimes there's a reaction to you?
Yes. So yes, of course, as a manifestor, there's I experience a lot of reactions to me, specifically in what we're talking about with content and sharing. I mean, I personally, like, everything that I share is like properly, like, credit due where credit given where credit is due. And I am seeing this constriction happen just more in the human design community than in the Gene Keys community. The Gene Keys is more dancing and more of the feminine kind of way and approach to it. But in the human design community, there's definitely these like kind of two sides of like must follow the education versus this new group that's emerging that I'm super excited to witness and learn from, which is kind of changing some of this. So yeah, I mean, what I have experienced is, also imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I've had that where my podcast and my work is inspiring others to do similar things. And there was, of course, one ego part of me that like, for a second was like, ooh, but then it's like, no, it's like, good, like, great, because what I'm going to do and who I am and who's going to want to listen to me and do whatever I'm doing is going to be different. Like, there's so many people here, and there's like different strokes for different folks. Like, we're all attracting the right people at the right time, and maybe they'll all want to follow everybody, and it's okay. So I think for me, it has more to do, like, it's going to keep happening, reactions, new level, new devil. So the bigger that you guys get, the bigger that I get, the more like, Bella, you especially at this point probably do have those like polar opposites sometimes. I don't yet. It's like I said, I'm like, actually, it's kind of when that happens, let you know, like, oh, I'm at my next level here, so that's also the cool part, that's like the silver lining of it. And it's really just continues to go back to like expansion, right? It's like back to our heart, back to our why, back to grounding into knowing what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then like people are going to talk, things are going to happen, and it just doesn't matter, so I'm really like working on being my own center of gravity. It's the best work we can all be doing right now, so that we're not reacting to the world around us and to other people who are reacting. So yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question too I'm looking at your chart and I see the first gene key in your core and also in your IQ. And often what Ashley and I are seeing more and more in the geometry is that the Venus is, of course, underpinning the pearl, but really like there's something when you have that vocation over the IQ, they are like together. So I'm wondering, what is your shadow story when it comes to the first gene key that has to do with depression, that has to do with, like in my case, the frenetic wanting to run away from the dark? And then I think you are saying to the dual of death, I think there's some kind of theme there for you. And so I have the first gene key in my evolution and I have a completely open emotional center. So I don't know, I think there's some theme there, and I don't know if you have gone deep in it, maybe you haven't, and maybe we can thread it with you, me and Ashley, but I think there is something important with that first gene key and your story.
Yeah. Well, having it twice, right? For sure. It's just like there's something there for me. And really the big shift that I've been making is, like strong, powerful women on this call, on this live, and really being the manifestor that I am. Like for so long, it was about doing things with my head and a more yang approach, a more masculine approach to doing everything. And that actually was, constricting me. And now I'm shifting more into this quantum field and this quantum energy. Like I've been doing a lot of work around money, for instance, and like looking at my money stories and what I took on as beliefs of like, you have to work hard and money, trading hours for dollars, that sort of thing. And when I like started to shift that and really dive deep into my own subconscious and like shadow and stories with that, money is, presenting itself in ways that I couldn't come up with in my head. The quantum just makes those things happen. So I am shifting more into the quantum of all things, quantum healing, quantum manifestation. And that's also in alignment with the 53rd gene key. But there's more work, again, this water path, there's more work for me to do with Qigong, with Tantra, with letting things receive and being more allowing and feminine. Like I have a podcast episode that was due like 2 weeks ago. My more masculine self would be like super hard on myself and be like, oh my gosh, you said you were going to get it out at this time. And this summer, these retrogrades, these eclipses, and all the things that I've been going through, initiations and transformations. I'm in a 5 personal year, so lots of change. I'm just like, it's okay. It's okay. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I'd love more insight if you have any.
There's something with money for sure, because you are a manifestor, and I think maybe you were measuring things in money before. You have the 21, I think, you have the 16, you are a manifestor, and I think there is something for you in this lifetime, like a re-evaluation of value. You have the 58 twice your pearl sequence. So there is an underlying dissatisfaction and something where wealth and prosperity and like there's some redefinition for you to do. And I'm wondering, because I think that with that 21 and not having the 45, there is something there that you could tend to go into dissatisfaction. So I would like to hear a little bit more specific about the money stories, or what you have been believing, or what you have realized, or because I think that could help people that are, I think, in a similar definition about things that is like a lock that wants to be unlocked for many of us.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Let's do this. So I was working in corporate. So when I left New York City, I had a 6-figure job. So I was very used to having money, and the pendulum swung very far in the other direction, like leaving New York, spending all my money traveling. It was epic. And I still had this mindset, like, I think that I had money. But what I realized, so I like nice things, right? And I realized that there was still a scarcity story going on with me continuing to buy things that I actually didn't have money for at the time, and realizing my ego side would tell myself like, oh, well, that's like abundance, just like stay in that abundance mindset and you can buy whatever you want. But when I looked deeper, I realized that it was actually like scarcity, and that I was so insecure about money that just buying things just were making me feel better. It was kind of like an addiction. So I've really had to like rewrite my money story, and also be a little bit more like, I'm a 5 life path. So it's discipline through freedom. So have more discipline, like enough discipline that I could still be free. Like my work life now is much more balanced, where I am working, but I make my own schedule and I work just, like few hours a day, and it's all in this way. And then I need to go outside. And the days that I don't go outside, there's a huge issue for me, because manifestors need to go outside. But anyways, there was this scarcity story that I had to take a deeper look at, that actually I was like self-medicating with buying things. So that was a big thing. And then really when I started to not be worried and in fear, and just was really like trusting in the flow, like literally, like Sedona is a magical place. If anyone has ever been here or wants to come here, I highly recommend it. But the minute I got here, I made sales, just everything is, I synchronistically met amazing people. And so it's going through those ebbs and flows. When I was in New Mexico last month, nothing was going on, nothing. I had to go into the underworld. I was on my Saturn line in my Saturn period in the Destiny card system. So like just knowing now I'm in my Uranus period, and like knowing that I just riding these waves and being aware of what's going on in the cosmic scene or whatever. But yeah, the money story, the scarcity was there, and I've been healing that and really shifting my vibration each day to know that I'm worthy, to know that money is flowing to me easily and effortlessly from multiple streams of revenue, and just trusting in that so it is, and I believe that we can say it. And what I've realized is you have to really have it integrated. And that's finally starting to land. And now I'm finally starting to see it actually manifest.
Yeah. And because because the initiator is very unconscious for you, it is cycles. Like the 53 and the 42, it's like it's like, here's the beginning, now here's the ending. And if you don't have the 42, then you're not going to end anything until you take initiative to say, no more of this. No more of this. The cycle's done. So it's really cool also seeing like how physically you go to New Mexico and you do this deep shadow work and you're like, hey, this is the cycle that's going to stop this. Go into Sedona that has very powerful vortexes, both masculine and feminine. That shit's going to bring up the stuff you're not working on, or it's going to attract in to that space that you've just cleared. Like, oh, okay, now I have space. So that vortex energy is just going to go whoosh, right in, So if you're not doing the work, that's a place to get instant manifestation for the good or for the bad. I don't think it's for either. I think it's neutral. It is what it needs to be. It's all four. It's four, not for the four, exactly. For you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I feel that, and that's, we're talking about these new beginnings, this 53rd gene key, and because I have a 5 life path, so I'm this adventurous freedom seeker coming into new places. I am that hermit as well. So I spent a lot of time in San Diego, not traveling. That was hard. And I know it's challenging for everyone right now with what's going on in the world. And I also believe we're all living on different timelines, and I'm not following the world stage timeline on the Black Mirror as closely. And so my reality is different. So I have a freedom to travel, and it's necessary for me right now to have that so that I can shift the energy and start new and start again. Vipassana, Goenka.
Yes. Oh, so cool. I love that you're weaving in the different systems. Like, oh, I'm a 5 life path. What's your Mayan dream spell? What are you?
Yeah, so I'm a white lunar wizard, and we're actually in 13 years of being in the wizard. Receptivity is the big word. So, like with this 4 line, just having this like receptive, open heart. So I've been really stepping into that. It is interesting because I am the lunar tone, which is the tone of challenge, which is like arguably another masculine kind of energy. So I do have like these, manifestor lunar tone. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm working with these energies, and coming up, we're going to be in a blue lunar storm year. So there is this like polarity that we're going to be experiencing, and things need to shake up even more than they already have. So we're going to see that happening. And then for us as individuals, it's just about, really looking at that dark and light within us, because everything that we're seeing outside of ourselves is a reflection of us not healing parts of our own inner self. So,
and that's what the moon tells us too. I mean, there's always a dark side of the moon and the light. We don't see the other side of the moon. We kind of have to go there. I think me, you, and Bella are all spectral. I think we're all moons, lunar. I think I'm a red spectral moon.
Oh, so yes. And that's so interesting. So I'm in my red spectral moon year right now. Spectral tone years, when you go through them, they're challenging. So that's the other thing, is like I can look at this year through these systems, these lenses, and see like, oh, this is going to be a challenging year. But it's also like an initiation for me to step into the next level of my being and of my destiny. And again, it just goes back to just awareness and knowing that. And it gives me peace, which is so important. As we all know, it's important for the manifestor to be at peace. And I will tell you, I am not always at peace. And I spent a lot of my life not being at peace. So that's what I want the most in my life, is to be at peace. So I forgot what I was saying with that, but yeah.
Monica just commented. She's like, "Okay, what system are you guys talking about now?" Not trying to confuse you, but
we are talking about the Mayan dream spell. Yes, White Lunar Wizard is my destiny kin, is my galactic signature, and I'm going through a red spectral moon year, so that is perfect that we're talking.
And I'm a red spectral moon, so that's why we're attracting too, because like
exactly.
I'm living that that energy, and she's in it, and so we go through cycles and phases, and that's why the 53 comes to begin. And I feel like there's not any deaths. Everything's just like continually like, nothing ever dies. It's just changing forms. That's the law of energy, matter. Nothing ever dies. It just gets destroyed. It just comes into something different. So that's kind of what happens. And
I'm guided by the power of death. So that was, for me, when I first read that about my dream spell, I didn't have a lot of death in my life. And I was like, ooh, guided by the power of death. Like I felt like, what does that mean? And now I've been initiated into that. I just experienced a death when I was in New Mexico. And what I learned is that through death, it actually brings people together. And again, through looking at the Mayan dream spell, we all came together through the moon of cooperation. She died on the final day of the moon of liberation, the spectral tone. So it gave me solace. It gave me comfort to look at the system and be like, oh, okay, like this was destiny. And this is, how I can understand it. So, and my part in it as well. Like, why was I here? Why was I called to be here? So anyways, I could just geek out and
no, thank you. Thank you for sharing your versatility. All these systems are important. And I feel like the main thing that's really important about all these is it helps you find peace of being, peace of yourself. Like you're here to find your naturalness and be it and share it with the world. That's the best gift you can give to the world, is when you're in your natural essence, when you're in your natural being, and your doing comes naturally when you are connected into that natural being. You're not forcing anything, and you're not trying to be what society tells you to be. You're like, no, I'm this. I will not homogenize. This is who I am, and this is how I'm going to be and do, and this is what I'm going to do. So these systems help you unlock that part of you that you knew as a child that was repressed, like rejected, whatever it is that happened. And we get to come back and claim that part of that whole of ourselves, instead of only expressing parts of ourselves.
Yes. And I also appreciate you both so much for some of these questions and ways that I can actually step into more of my vulnerability, because that is something that I've still been, the hermit, like still private. I like to kind of, I've wanted to control kind of a little bit of what I share and say. And my podcast specifically, I really wanted to make sure that it didn't become just like readings for RaYvn. So I'm very careful when I'm interviewing people to like make sure that we're talking about things that everybody can learn from. And I also know that it's my destiny to share my vulnerability, to share my story and my learnings from my own experiences. So this has been a beautiful initiation for me to step more into that vulnerability. So thank you both so much. I know I have more to do, but thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for being vulnerable, and also going there. And some of the questions asked, you didn't hold back. You're like, okay, I guess we'll go there. And I'm curious to have more conversations and you go even deeper, because I know that there's more. I know that there's more, but we don't have time.
I know.
Bella, did you have any more questions you would like to ask or commenting on anything?
No, I mean, I'm still I know there is more to the thing. I'm still with the 54 and the 53 and the greed. And, for me, the 53 and the 54 is that trust in the old structures, the power structures, and even kind of sometimes using money and power and sex and these things for your own agenda. Like the immaturity of using it, not thinking it's enough for everybody, or there is enough for everybody. And So yeah, I feel like that's part of the threading, and I'm wondering, because maybe either it's harder for you to let go now when the world is falling apart, or you already did the work. So when the world is falling apart, you're like, yeah, that's what I've been realizing for the last 5 years, or so there is something. I think my last question is like, how have you been responding or reacting to what's going on in the world, and how do you think your design has helped you or not helped you in that response to what's been happening this year?
Wow, big question. So, well, first I will say that I don't spend a lot of time, like I mentioned, I call it like the world stage and looking at the black mirror. I'm more removed from that and from taking in that content on a regular basis. So and I'm very sensitive. So when I do take something in, whether it's alternative information or mass media, it affects me so much. I can feel it in my consciousness, in my meditations. And so just witnessing that, I've taken a really big step back from taking in a lot of that information. And also like not feeling the need to take part in some of these conversations. Like I think there's a lot of like mass guilt and shame, like if you're not participating in some of this. And I don't subscribe to that at all. I have been on for basically this whole just in numerology, this whole life path that I've been on, or this personal year journey. I've been really focused on this myself. Going to New Mexico for the past 2.5 months and serving. Like I was serving for the past 2 months. I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was supporting my friend. She lost her baby. It was quite a initiation and experience. And after I showed up in service, let my business go, like didn't do anything for Seeker's Library literally for the past 2 months. Coming to Sedona like this, I'm finally back. But for the past 2 months, it was just like going on my own silent retreats with myself, serving with my friend, just really showing up. Everything shifted. And so something that I've learned is like really human to human interactions and being of service in a really genuine way shifted my whole experience. So that has been a learning for me. And just, just being like humble and accepting fierce love from people that love me. Accepting, I saw a question on the 53rd Gene Key on your page, like, what does it mean to be mature? And I believe it really, for me, is about, like being humble, forgiving, accepting of everybody, and forgiving of myself when I may show up in a way that isn't my highest, and just giving everybody else the room and the space to also have their moments. So it's come back a lot for me to service, and that's why so many things have shifted. And it's not like service, like, oh, donate to this thing and I'm of service. It's like really being there for somebody, really holding space. And that's why I do a lot of sales calls now. I'm also doing sales consulting, and I'm not showing up like wanting a sale. I'm showing up like, how can I now support you in this hour? Like, how can I hold space for you? It's coming from a more authentic, genuine place because I did so much service. And so, it's shifted a lot for me. I wanted to mention one more thing about the 53rd Gene Key, if that's all right, but I'll pause for a moment. Okay. What I just wanted to say about it is when I first read it, like I was like pretty intimidated. My ego was like, no self, like super abundance, no longer have my identity. I don't know if I want that to be my path. Like when I was at that Chapel of Sacred Mirrors retreat, read that, that's pretty much what came up. And, Seeker's Library is still about understanding yourself as this individual, because I do feel like we all have our challenges and gifts, and it's not that we can't do anything. It's that we all came here to do specific things. And like I like to say, when I'm seeing somebody do something that I would love to do, but I'm not going to do it. I'm like, oh, I look good. I look good doing those pull-ups. I look good doing that handstand. I look good. We are.
I like that.
You know, and like,
Yeah.
I like to say we're a community of one, expressing ourselves in billions of ways. So if someone's doing something that you want to do, but you know, like, it's not going to happen right now, just be like, oh, I look good.
Yeah, I love that.
That's my bridge right now to staying as an individual and knowing that, you know, we're all going back to the same source sooner or later. And that's what we're meant to do as well. And that's where we all came from. So that's what superabundance means to me. And now it's not as scary.
I can relate to what you're saying. I have the 53 and I have the 10. So I hear some of the 10. You have the 10, which is all about, we have self-obsession, naturalness, and being. And then you have the 26, which is like pride to invisibility. And so at the higher expression of the 10, oh, it's the same as the higher expression of the 53. And then the 26 is invisibility too. I feel the exact same. I'm like, well, okay, Ashley's not really existing. It's like oneness, everything. But I am that tree. I'm that blade of grass. I am Bella. I am RaYvn. I am all of it, you know? But I chose to be this expression. My awareness is here. And so that's where my focus is. But we are all one, you know? And it's like, don't lose touch of the bigger picture that like, I'm just this finger and you're this finger, but we're part of the same body. You know, we have our own purpose and role, and our personality and our design is how we're expressing that source oneness energy out into the world. And we don't need to try to be someone else because that person has it covered.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Aho.
Wonderful. Well, I know that we've had you on for quite a while now, and I know that you have other things to do today.
Thank you.
But if there's one more thing you'd like to leave with everybody, one more nugget of wisdom or anything, what would it be?
I mean, it sounds so cheesy, right? But it all comes back to love. It all comes back to loving yourself and accepting yourself, forgiving yourself, and just being yourself. I mean, it's that simple. It's just like, love yourself so you can love everyone else. And that's my whole mission with Seekers Library is like, once I can understand myself, I can understand everyone else for their differences. And so just a lot of love, a lot of love.
Thank you. And we will witness you planting those seeds of love, understanding, and forgiveness, because that's what's going to grow in your garden.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ryan, by the way, that was such a good, if no one's watched that yet, or if anyone hasn't watched it, the dandelion metaphor that you did was spot on. So thank you both so much for your amazing work with this platform and for having me. It's been amazing to see you goddesses and be with you. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody who watched and tuned in. We appreciate you. And have a wonderful rest of your day. And be conscious of those seeds that you're planting. Bye, everybody.
In the Kesh.